I never thought a regular workday would spiral into a full-blown neighborhood scandal, complete with police cruisers, a lockdown protocol, and the HOA president facing criminal charges. But that's exactly what unfolded when Karen Whitfield decided she had the right to force her way into my home with a bogus master key. At the time, I was on a video call with clients overseas, completely unaware of the chaos brewing back home. My 12-year-old son, Leo, was there alone, but not unsupervised. He stood calmly behind the locked door, watching everything unfold on our home security system, which was silently recording each moment. Footage that would eventually expose everything. I'm Marcus Chun, a single father and software developer. 3 months earlier, Leo and I had left behind our small city apartment for what I believed would be a more peaceful life in Willowbrook Estates. A quiet, gated community with manicured lawns and well-kept homes. I had imagined safety, friendly neighbors, and a fresh start. Instead, I walked straight into a suburban dictatorship run by Karen Whitfield, an HOA president with a warped sense of power. Karen introduced herself the same day we moved in, clipboard in hand, eyes scanning our moving boxes like a code inspector sniffing out violations. Her comments were wrapped in courtesy but laced with judgment. I chalked it up to overzealous neighborhood etiquette until she crossed a line. One afternoon, as I was unloading groceries, Leo returned home from school. Karen approached uninvited, her expression tight with artificial concern. "Single dads often struggle with supervision," she said. "Maybe after-school care would be more appropriate." I kept my reply polite, explaining that I worked remotely and used our smart home system to monitor Leo. She smiled, but her eyes stayed cold. I had the gut feeling this wasn't just a one-off encounter. Days later, she came knocking again, this time claiming the HOA had a policy against leaving minors under 16 home alone. When I asked to see the bylaw, she mumbled something about it being under review. That document, of course, never showed up. But what did appear, like clockwork, was Karen's silver SUV circling our street each afternoon. At first, she'd just drive by slowly. Then she started parking across from our house around the time Leo got home. She never said a word, just watched. Leo asked me one day if she was trying to kidnap him. That's when we began documenting everything: times, photos, dashcam images, doorbell footage. Still, we weren't prepared for what happened on that Tuesday in October. I was mid-presentation on a live video call with a Japanese firm when my phone lit up with a string of alerts. Front door motion detected. Failed key entry attempt. Then came audio from our speaker system. Karen, demanding that Leo open the door for his own safety. On the camera feed, I saw her shoving a key into the lock. She claimed she was doing a welfare check as HOA president. Leo kept his composure, followed our emergency protocol, and activated lockdown mode. That sealed all entry points and triggered full recording. Then he called me, "Dad, that lady's trying to get in. She says she has a key, but it won't work." I told him to stay calm and stay inside. I spoke through the intercom, warning Karen to leave immediately. She didn't listen. Instead, she made things worse. She dialed 911 and told dispatch that a child had been left alone and could be in danger. While I was on the line trying to explain what was really happening, the operator informed me that officers were already en route. I grabbed my keys and bolted out the door. The drive home felt like it lasted a lifetime. When I pulled up, 2 police vehicles were parked outside. Officers Martinez and Thompson stood on my front porch while Karen paced back and forth, frantically waving her phone and repeating that I was an unfit father who had abandoned his child. Inside, Leo calmly explained through the intercom that he was doing homework and had been instructed not to open the door for strangers. As I got out of the car, Karen pointed at me like she had just caught a criminal. "That's him," she yelled. "That's the father. He left his son here alone." But her accusations fell apart fast. The officers reviewed the camera footage, Karen trying to force entry, Leo speaking clearly and calmly, and my voice giving direct instructions. I provided timestamps, security logs, and app data. I even showed them the message history between Leo and me during the incident. After a few tense moments, Officer Thompson handed me back my ID with a nod. Looks like everything checks out, he said. Thanks for cooperating, sir. We'll be following up on this unauthorized entry. Karen's face drained of color as the realization hit her. This wasn't going to end with a warning. Within a week, I was contacted by local authorities. Karen Whitfield was being formally charged with trespassing, attempted unlawful entry, and misuse of emergency services. The HOA board scrambled to distance themselves, claiming she had acted alone. She was stripped of her title within days. Leo and I still live in Willowbrook Estates. The lawns are just as green, the homes just as pristine, but things feel different now. Some neighbors nod more respectfully. Others avoid eye contact altogether. As for Karen, we haven't seen her SUV since. And just in case, I added another camera. They knocked firmly, but I stayed calm. Sir, said one of the officers, his tone even, can we hear your side of the story? Of course, I replied, unlocking the front door with my actual key. Unlike the phony master key that Karen still held, dangling uselessly from her hand. As they stepped inside, they immediately spotted Leo at the kitchen table, calmly working through homework, surrounded by a textbook, a pencil, and a glass of water. He even offered them a polite wave. The officers took a few moments to confirm he had access to food, water, and a phone. Then I showed them the security footage. It captured everything. Karen walking up to the door, attempting to open it with a key that didn't work, jiggling it multiple times before pulling out her phone and dialing 911. Her face wasn't worried, it was angry. When Officer Thompson asked where she got the key, her story collapsed. It was from an emergency maintenance visit months ago, she muttered. You made a copy of a homeowner's key without their consent? He pressed. Karen hesitated. It's HOA policy. Can you show us that policy? Officer Martinez asked. She couldn't. That's when I pulled out my file. A thick folder with dates and notes of Karen's repeated surveillance attempts, screenshots of her vague threats over imaginary infractions, and even statements from neighbors. One particularly damning piece came from Mrs. Rodriguez across the street, who'd recorded Karen idling in her car for 25 minutes, just watching our house. As the officers questioned her further, Karen's confidence drained away. Words like false report, unlawful entry, and trespassing were mentioned. Her face turned ashen. Outside, the neighborhood was waking up to the spectacle. People casually appeared on their porches, phones in hand, pretending to water flowers or check the mailbox. I could already imagine the Facebook posts brewing. When asked again to provide any rule allowing her to enter private homes, she weakly claimed the document was at her house. No HOA policy overrides state law, Officer Thompson said sternly. Ma'am, you're being cited for unlawful attempted entry and for making a false emergency report. You can't, she snapped. I'm the HOA president. Irrelevant, Officer Martinez replied, calmly filling out the paperwork. I informed them that I would be pressing charges, and when I mentioned my lawyer would be in touch, Karen seemed to shrink in place. The next HOA meeting was more crowded than I'd ever seen. My attorney, Jacob Morrison, who deals specifically with HOA disputes, joined me and presented all the evidence in a cool, methodical manner. Karen sat rigid at the head of the table, flanked by fellow board members who now stared at their shoes. Jacob brought up the unauthorized key duplication, the psychological effect on my son, and the wasteful use of emergency services. He formally requested a key audit. Tom Bradley, the treasurer, admitted Karen had never sought or received approval for any such policy. Sarah Kim, the secretary, even produced minutes from a prior meeting where Karen's proposal for home access rights was explicitly rejected. The vote of no confidence passed unanimously. Even the few who had backed her before now sat stone-faced. Karen stood, trembling. You'll regret this. Without me, this place will fall apart. No one responded. She stormed out. But it didn't end there. She was fined $5,000 for false reporting. The unauthorized key duplication led to misdemeanor charges. Her real estate license was suspended pending review. We filed a civil suit for harassment and emotional distress, and we won. She was ordered to pay $15,000 in damages and permanently banned from serving on the HOA. A restraining order barred her from coming within 100 feet of our home. I'll never forget the day of the sentencing. She stood in court, no longer the polished, authoritative figure who once lorded over our neighborhood. Her carefully maintained image was in ruins. The judge read each offense aloud. When the bailiff explained the terms of her probation, she finally broke down. The woman who tried to dominate our lives through intimidation and bogus power plays became just another example of how quickly it can all unravel. And it all began because my 12-year-old son knew exactly when to press the panic button.